Hey everybody, it is Jason from the Texas Gun Vault. I hope you guys are having a good night and coming back to you with another live stream. Hopefully you guys can hear me, and my internet still is terrible. So if you see some flashing on the screen or my voice has a sound to it, it's because my internet connection here sucks. And that's just the way it's been the past couple of weeks, especially when it comes to the uploading versus the downloading. And it's not just me, it's my whole neighborhood. So I hope you guys can hear me. I see there's a few people in the chat and trying to get everything set up here. I was actually working on some streaming software earlier, but I can't figure out how to integrate it with YouTube. I'm trying to see if I can get rid of some of this choppiness. But if somebody could type in the chat, let me know if they can hear me and if things are okay. If not, I still got some more work to do. So anyway, hope you guys are doing well. Just got home from a performance. And so I thought I would come to you, I guess with a live stream because I want to make, more content on Sundays. But then if I go out in the garage and I film, like a commentary video or something, it takes time. Then I have to come back in and edit it. So I know a lot of you guys do like the live streams. So I thought I would, try it out. So I have a couple of people saying, Roman says stream is good, and Jason's, how's it going? Cookie says that it's going good. Thank you all for being here. As I said, I just got home, so want to come to you with a little bit of gun chat, see what you guys are up to, and also talk about, I guess, the breaking news about the ATF being enjoined from enforcing the FRT trigger ban, which is interesting because there was never an official ban. There was never a letter or any of that. They just went around saying they are machine guns and was showing up to people's houses and but without warrants and things, just trying to get people to voluntarily surrender them. And I guess there's been a big injunction against their enforcement. Hello, Mike. Hello, Wazowski. Glad you guys are here. But yeah, it's kind of huge news because I know that you guys would want to talk about it. And I haven't not had time to read the opinion. And I'm one of those geeky people that actually like reads the whole opinion when all this stuff comes out. And I thought it was worthy of me talking about because you guys know I always come to you and try to be as realistic as possible when it comes to the outcomes of these things. So I really have to go read it. But I've heard kind of the bullet points from a lot of people. I guess there's some information out there that there might be some clarification on the order. Does it apply to just the Fifth Circuit? Does it apply nationwide if you're a member of the, the National Association of Gun Rights, or if you bought one from one of these companies? So we'll just have to see with the clarification. And I kind of thought, just with the basic knowledge of what I have, what I think was going to happen. So I want to talk about that and then talk about anything else in the gun world that you guys might want to chat about. So any questions, comments, anything you guys want to talk about, just kind of type it in the chat and we can talk about it. But if you want, I can kind of talk about what I know about the FRT injunction and what I think will happen. And as I said, I've only read a couple of articles on it real fast. They did not go in depth. And then I saw that Mr. Guns and Gear had talked about it. Mike's asked, do you really think ATF has all those FRT tagged for return? Not. No, I guarantee you that if in the scenario that they were completely enjoined from enforcing any type of bans and they can't go and collect them, the ones they either have and have probably destroyed, the government will probably need to compensate those owners because that would have been confiscation, maybe under duress and kind of thing. But I don't know, because I don't know if when you sign that form over, of course there's two forms. One of them you completely give up the rights to. So even if it's found that they couldn't have done it, they have no or they're not liable for compensating you. So, hey, Jack, it's good to see you. Happy Monday Eve. Yes, luckily I have tomorrow off. I hope you guys do as well. It's a federal holiday, so some people do, some people do not. But anyway, it looks like that this judge here in the Fifth Circuit, as I said, it's not a final ruling or anything like that. It's a injunction, but he gets it right when it comes to what the FRT triggers are, and that they are not machine guns, and that there is an individual function and pull of the trigger for each shot fired. And I think that's good precedent. What do I think is going to happen? And I'm glad this happened in the Fifth Circuit because number one, it's the circuit in which I reside in here in Texas, and but it's also one of the more pro-gun circuits. Now, of course, the ATF will probably appeal it to the higher court, but luckily, the higher court in the past has sent the bump stock ban back down to the lower courts to be re-adjudicated as well. So this kind of falls in that same category. So it looks like there's going to be, I think for a while anyway, once they get clarification, I think the ATFs is most likely in the short term going to back off the enforcement of it. They're probably going to stop sending out letters. They're probably going to stop going door to door, and they're going to fight it. So then once it goes up to the complete Fifth Circuit, as I said, I don't think they're going to do anything. And then if it goes to the Supreme Court, I have no idea. But I think in the short term, it's a great win. In the long term, I have no earthly idea. The only thing that this could spawn is if the anti-gun liberal Democrats get control of Congress in both houses. Anytime in the near future, they know that they're going to have to amend the definition of machine gun in the federal statutes. But as long as it is what it is, they won't be able to. And I think it's good. Now, if this would have happened in another circuit, especially like the Ninth Circuit, I don't think we would have gotten this ruling, or they would have delayed it. But this is absolutely huge news, only because the judge, I think, gets it right. So when it comes to the definition of what these FRT triggers are, and unfortunately, I think he says in the ruling that, or the injunction, it's not a nationwide one. So, but I think because there's no way for the ATF to know whether or not that you are a member of the National Association of Gun Rights, or if you're covered under this, they're probably going to stop enforcement of it, which I think is good because there's never been an opinion letter. There's never been an official thing about it. And I'm not a big fan of them going, to people's doors unannounced without people knowing what the heck's going on. And I just think that's just ripe for a problem. So, yeah. Anyway, so I thought that was really good news. I have to think about it. As I said, I still have to read the opinion to give you guys my thoughts and opinions on what's going to happen. I think it's a good win in the short term. I don't think that the Fifth Circuit would overturn it because of the other ruling they had on the bump stock case. But I think short term, it's a win. As I said, I still have to go and read the injunction completely. But I just got home, so I'm just kind of catching up. I was deciding if I was going to go film something in the garage or just go live stream. But I think I want to do more live streams on Fridays. I mean, not Fridays, Sundays. See, I'm all tired. Get all my days mixed up. All right, so let's see if there's any action in the chat here. Jack says, I have every day off. Yes, I do know that. Happy retirement. And Cookie says, I am off tomorrow as well. I plan on going to the range. Actually, I plan on going to the range. In fact, tomorrow I'm supposed to have lunch with one of my local subscribers and Patreon supporters. His name is Craig. He's lent some stuff to the channel in the past, and I believe he's moving away. So he wanted to have lunch with me. So I'm going to lunch here in Frisco with him at a really nice Mexican restaurant. And then afterwards, I'm going to go to the range because I got 3 guns to shoot right now. I got to go back and load the bag before I go to bed tonight. 2 of them are Jack's, who's in the chat here tonight. So I have 2 of his Smith & Wessons that are going to the range tomorrow. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And I got to get those reviews started. And the other one is a Browning high power, was it the practical model? And that's on loan from Richard. And then sometime this week, I have to go see my friend D, because I got 3 of his amazing firearms that I've already reviewed and got up. And those are out for release. So he has some more stuff for me to try out. In fact, one of the things he said he has for me ready to go is the new B&T KH9 Covert. Now, it's still a pistol, so it doesn't have any brace or stock on it, but it's the only way that he can lend it to me because legally it's a pistol. But that's going to be a lot of fun to review. And after I get done with it, he'll go ahead and SBR it. So, word up Russia, or actually, maybe it's word you Prussia. I enjoyed your Sam 7 range review. Well, thank you so much. I've done the Sam 7. I've done the Sam 5 as well. Actually, I think I've done a couple of Sam 7s. Maybe I've only done one. I own a Sam 7, one of the older ones, and it was one of the best gun trades. Now, I'll tell you, when it comes to guns in my collection, I rarely sell or trade a gun. Very, very rarely do I sell a gun or trade a gun. Because even if it's a gun I don't shoot very often or whatever, I still find some place in my collection for it because I don't know. I'd be like, I got to collect all the different variants of it, even though I hate it. One of the guns I traded was a Walther CCP. Yeah, concealed carry pistol. I thought, like a lot of people, they buy it because they think it's going to be so cool, like the HKP7, because it has that little gas delay piston thing in it. And it's not as cool and the trigger sucks. So I ended up actually getting rid of that thing. But that same 7 that I own, I actually traded for. I had one of the original FNP 45 Tacticals. They were the ones that came out just after that military trial where they were thinking about going back to 45. I had one in black, and some guy had this Sam 7 on one of the local sites. And I was like, hey, I messaged him and go, hey, I'm interested in that. Would you be interested in this pin? He goes, oh, yeah. And so I think I got the better end of the deal on that because I think that pistol went for about $1,000. And I think the Sam 7 at that time new was like 12, but I think it's gone up in price since. So I'm pretty happy with that deal. So it was an even trade. Roman says, any thoughts on the developments in the House of Representatives with the speaker being removed? I'm conflicted on the potential government shutdowns due to it slowing down ATF form approvals. Yeah, that's a good question. You know, one of those things that I kind of follow just because I'm interested is the ATF form processing. And if you guys are on Facebook, go check out a couple of like the one's called the NFA Owners Group. And another one is a funny name. It's the struggling to cope with ATF wait times or something like that. And essentially, it's a group where people just kind of self-report their wait times. Like, hey, I bought this suppressor from a gun store. I'm starting my process or whatever. Or as people get stuff in, they just go on there and post pictures and say, hey, this was a 6-month wait. This was a 10-month wait. Whatever, and people will ask, oh, was that a Form 4? Was it paper? Was it electronic? You can kind of get a little bit of an idea of what the wait times are. And I used to use a website called NFA Tracker, but I preferred their old website over their new one. Their new one kind of sucks. It's hard to use. The interface isn't all that good, but they used to have this awesome graph. But I remember one time when we had a government shutdown, they stopped processing the forms. But then the other time they had a government shutdown, they did not. And I believe the reason is they moved the NFA division into the essential category, because even if they have a government shutdown, there are certain parts of the government that stay funded no matter what and keep up and running because they're so essential. And when it comes to the NFA stuff, because they do more than just processing forms for civilians, they do processing forms for the government. They do processing forms for law enforcement. And so they learned in the past that if you shut all that down, it actually affects, commerce and firearms, even with law enforcement agencies, and they can't have that. So last time they stayed open. So I can't test. And what's interesting about the wait times is they've been averaging, based off of what I can see, about 250 days-ish or so. But then I started seeing people saying they're getting theirs back in 2 months, and then some people saying 4 months and so forth. I think I have one that's like 160 days. But somebody recently called the NFA branch, and they said the average wait time right now is 190 days. That's what they claimed, which is lower than what I was thinking it was. So I think they've done something where they're speeding up the process, and I'm not really sure what that is. So I believe they're getting through more forms in general. But as for the Speaker of the House being removed, I think it's absolutely fantastic because it's finally time that, I mean, I don't think business is going to change at all. But it's great that when people say, "Hey, I'm not going to do backroom deals with, the other party. I'm not going to do this," and then they go and do it, they're finally held to account. I mean, there's a reason why Congress has like an 8% approval rating of Congress. People are just tired of it. We're tired of being told, "Oh yeah," and it's like I complain in many of my videos. I say, when it comes to the Republican Party, every 2 years for Congress and every 4 years for the presidency, they're going to tell you the attack on your Second Amendment rights are over, right? They're always like, we have these A ratings from all these gun rights organizations, and then they get in there, and what do they do? Do they pass pro-gun legislation? No, no, no. In fact, when something happens, they have to be part of the do something. So they might not ban guns or ban magazines, but they still do something. That's how we got John Cornyn, one of our senators here in Texas, to help pass the was it the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act or whatever they called it, which now changed the definition of what it's like to sell guns or whatever. So, yeah, it was a big issue. So even when they get in, you still lose your rights, and people are just tired of it. We're just tired of it. I actually don't care. I'll let them squabble because I like to borrow the quote from former Attorney General Ed Meese, who was one of the attorney generals under Ronald Reagan. He said, "Every day Congress meets, you lose a little bit more of your liberty." Yeah, and it's regardless of what party it is, because many times when Congress passes a law, they're usually banning something or making something illegal that was previously legal. Very rarely do they pass any bill or law that makes something that's currently illegal legal again. So, yeah, you always lose more of your liberty, and that little sands of the hourglass is always filling up. Let's see. Word of pressure. Hopefully, I can find an Arsenal trigger to replace the Fime trigger in the SAM 7 SF. The trigger that I would recommend you guys or you look at is the ALG? Yeah, the ALG trigger. They're owned by Geisley, but that's the one that I've used in my SAM 7, and they're awesome. They're awesome. I was in perpetual delayed status on a Bass Pro purchase earlier this year. Bass doesn't transfer until proceed, and they never got one. So after months, I had to just cancel the order. Oh, was that on a regular 4473? Yeah, because if they don't fit, because the after 30 days, the FBI just throws the background check away if they ever find anything. See. They were essentially just giving me a delay and forgetting all about. Yeah, that's what they do. You just have to start the process again. If you end up getting a lot of delays, I hear that the best thing to do is to get one of those. Was it UINs, the unique identifying number? Anyway, you can apply that either through the FBI or the ATF. There's a form for that, and so if you have a name that's similar to somebody that's on the banned list or the block list, you supply them with that number, and it clears up any problems you may have. TAC 556. Why don't we focus on removing the NFA instead of wasting money on the pistol brace and bump stocks? Your thoughts? I completely agree. But a lot of that I think has to do with culture and education. In that, as I mentioned in the past, just because the Constitution or laws say what they do, there's the theory of law and there's the practice of law. And so we can have a law, like, for example, the Constitution says shall not be infringed, but that's not what we do in practice. And so over time, we create this unwritten Constitution and these unwritten accepted norms of society. And as time goes on, things that have always been the way they are become more solidified in practice. So the National Firearms Act is almost 100 years old. Okay. Coming up on, in 2034, be 100 years old. And that means it is entrenched in law. And not only is it has so much precedence is that in the eyes of many people, because the left has been so good at demonizing things like machine guns, which honestly, we all know that semi-auto is much more effective and much more accurate and much more, deadly than full auto, because that's just suppressive fire. But now people think machine guns are the worst. Same thing goes with sawed-off shotguns, right? Everyone sees the movie tropes and whatever. Same thing with silencers. Speaking of movies, everyone thinks a silencer is the tool of an assassin because of the movies. And we've just had the system in place for so long the way it is that culture in general just accepts them to be that way. And that's why it is. So it's really hard. But hopefully, if we can change the culture, and I think that injunction today goes a long way in that the judge was able to look at this and flat out say, it is a different function of the trigger for every round pulled. Therefore, it's not classified as an NFA item. And if we can have judges that actually look at the letter of the law and not, I guess I could say the spirit of the law and go, well, if it functions like a machine gun or if it shoots as fast as a machine gun, it's a machine gun. No, the letter of the law says this is what it is, right? And if we can get judges to do that and win some of these smaller cases, I think the NFA is manageable at taking down. The problem I think too with the NFA and getting it overturned is that all of the items on that list are regulated the same. So, and for example, a pin gun is regulated exactly the same way and transferred on the same form as a machine gun. Okay. And I think that we can all agree that a little 22 long rifle pin gun or a gun that folds up and looks like a credit card is very different than, let's say, MP5. But because they're regulated the same and they're all like intertwined, to try to get one thing removed and not the whole thing, it's hard because people would say, oh, you can't take suppressors off because then the machine guns become legal. And then people go, I don't think we're ready for that. And judges will back off on that. And that becomes hard. That's why we have to kind of go at this, I think, in like a piecemeal kind of old fashion. Spray and Pray said, sorry, just tuning in, but I wanted to say that the FRT injunction will almost certainly be appealed immediately. So this is another time where people are losing their minds too early. And I kind of agree. But as I said early in this stream, they're applying it to, hold on, my dog is barking. It's okay. Sorry, one of my kids just came home from work. But as I was saying, because it's here in the Fifth Circuit, which is very different than the Ninth Circuit, there's a chance because they already have held up the injunction against the bump stocks in the Fifth Circuit that they'll probably do the same thing here. It's going to give us a little bit more time, and I think more people will be covered under it. In the short term, I definitely think if you live in the Fifth Circuit, you'll be fine for a while. But of course, they'll continue to appeal it. And but I know people are going crazy about it. But this one actually, I think because of the jurisdiction it's in, is a little bit better. And it was in better shape than, let's say, the Ninth Circuit when it comes to the California magazine ban. Spray and Pray also says, I know the NFA items are over time graph is exponential. And I think things like Silencer Stop and YouTube showing people how to navigate the NFA system is a big part of that. Yes, it is. Because so many people now are getting into it. And that's also to do with inflation. They never attach the tax to inflation. So $200 back in 1934 was like $4,500, where today's dollars it's $200, which is a lot more manageable. So people can get into the NFA world, and they do make it easy when it comes to the forms and things. So all the NFA branch has to do is just catch up with the number of examiners that they have. I remember there was a long time ago, this is back, as I said, like the old NFA tracker, you would actually, one of the things you could fill out, is when you got your form back, which examiner it was. And for a time, there was like 12 examiners. And they had to go through hundreds of thousands of forms. But I know for a while they expanded it. But if they would just hire, it's weird because the government's all about spending money and hiring more people. But when it comes to the NFA branch, they've kept it like 25 for a long time. They really need 50 or 60 examiners. And if they did that, I think you'd see wait times go way down. Spray and Pray says, praying that the Fifth keeps it up also should apply nationwide. Yeah, I don't think they're going to do the nationwide thing. That's the only way I think it will apply nationwide is that if you are a named plaintiff or a member of, was it the National Association of Gun Rights? But I think if you live in the Fifth Circuit, it's not going to matter if you are or not because you'll be covered under it. But I think nationwide, that's where it's not going to be covered. I think that's the more reasonable approach right now. But that's because the Fifth Circuit is much more pro Second Amendment than most of the other circuits. Word Up Russia says your channel and content is grade A. Well, I do appreciate that. I know there's a lot of people that would disagree with you, and rightfully so, because I'm just an average guy. I'm not I was kind of a joke and say that I'm not one of those tactical bearded operators. I know people like that, or I don't have any credentials or any of that. It's just I'm just someone that just likes talking about firearms and enjoy shooting and collecting and learning all I can about them. And one of the things on my journey in the Second Amendment world and Second Amendment content creation that I've it's gotten me down in the past, but sometimes I feel like people feel or think that if you're not a former special operations, or if you're not former military, or you're not a firearms trainer or whatever, you shouldn't make content. You don't know what you're talking about, and I find that to be a very silly argument. It's like an astronomy. One of my other things, I'm not an amateur astronomer. I don't own any telescopes, but I love reading about astronomy, learning about astronomy. And you would be surprised how many discoveries are made by amateur astronomers, people that just are passionate about astronomy, that might be doctors or lawyers or whatever, or teachers, or have other jobs, and just astronomy is their passion. And so they do, they comb through tons of data that's available from like the James Webb Space Telescope, or they have their own telescopes and they discover a new asteroid or whatever. And because they're passionate about it. And these amateur astronomers add so much to the world of astronomy, and they're not professional astronomers. They're not employed by universities or, whatever, or they don't have physics degrees. And so the amateur side of things can be a great resource, because what matters is not your credentials, but sometimes your passion. And, the cream rises to the top. And so sometimes when I make these videos, I get so down because people are like, oh, you're not this, you're not that. And it's just, I don't know. It just kind of wears on you. But I do appreciate you saying those things. Michael Dolan says hello. So hello. Spray and pray. I think when the ruling is against a federal agency, it applies nationwide. Unless there's a conflicting rulings, then it's up to the ATF's discretion until the SCOTUS cures the circuit split. I think you're right. However, the judge in this injunction, and I still have to go read it. I read the first couple of pages, and yes, I'm a dork. I always read these things. I think someone said it's like 40 or 41 pages long. He mentions in his ruling for this injunction that it is not a nationwide injunction per the precedent set in Mock v. Garland, which is one of the other cases. What is that? Is it and that's the bump stock case, which the Fifth Circuit did not do a nationwide injunction. So I think that's the key, and some clarification is going to have to be given on that. Spray and Pray says, I agree. Most of us in the gun community are more like yourself, even if they won't admit it. Yeah, and that's what makes the gun world go around. I mean, think about it. When all these gun companies make a gun, whatever your favorite gun is, who are they marketing to? They're not marketing to the tactical operator. They're not necessarily marketing to the, former law enforcement. They want to sell units. So they're trying to get people that are like you or I that just love guns. We like to go out to the range. We like to have fun. We like to go plink. Some of you guys might like to hunt or whatever. That's who their market is. And, so I don't believe that you need to be necessarily credentialed or have some type of, provenance to your history to be the only ones that are allowed to speak on the subject. I always tell people I'm upfront with things in my review. I say, I'm not a competitive shooter. That's not what I do. So don't expect me to shoot like 22 Plinkster or Jerry Mitchellek. That's not what you're going to get. If you want to go see somebody do trick shots or go see somebody shoot really fast, well, go watch their channels. And that's great. And they put out great content and say great things. But most of us do not interact with those type of people in real life. If you're a typical gun owner and go shooting with your buddies, most of the time you guys are probably just average gun guys. You guys are, plumbers or, whatever, and you just go out and, some land on the weekend, you go hunting, you go, shoot, and you're just average gun people, and you just want to go, well, what do people like me think? You know? Um, I don't know. I have an analogy sometimes, uh, about, I mean, see how I can word this in a different way. Um, okay, let's talk about unrealistic self-image expectations. We hear a lot about the youth of America, especially females. Will They'll see a lot of other people in mainstream media or media content that are all skinny or have a certain, or they're told there's a certain type of beauty that you want to attain, and they can't attain that because of who they are, their body, or whatever. And it causes a lot of, mental issues because they feel like they're unworthy or they're ugly or whatever. And I kind of feel like people expect that in their gun content, that you can only make content if you are one of these things, and that's not the case in my opinion. um I kind of feel like just the community is full of different types of people, and while my content definitely is not for everybody, um I hope it's for some people. And I'm always honored and happy when people say they enjoy my videos. Or one of the great things is when I make a field strip video, and I've gotten a lot of these comments lately. They'll go, "Wow, I was cleaning my gun, or I didn't know how to put it back together. I couldn't figure out how to take it apart. Thank you for making this video." And that makes it all worth it for me. All worth it for me. It makes me feel so good. Let's see here. Spray and pray. The judge's rulings seem confusing. Probably will need clarification. Yes, that's what Mr. Guns and Gear said. As I said, I still have to go read the ruling, but he read the important parts kind of out loud, and I kind of agree with that. It's very broad, and the ATF is going to ask for that clarification as well as appeal. But as I said, I think in this case, knowing everything, I was joking, I know everything. I don't think they're going to win on appeal. They're going to let the lower one stand just because of their history with Second Amendment cases in the Fifth Circuit. Let's see here. Word up Russia. I don't get how they always flout the Supreme Court rulings when it's against their agenda, like Roe and Wade. But when the ruling agreed with their agenda, they're enforced strongly. Yeah, it's crazy. People just it goes back to, I can't remember which Supreme Court case it was, but it was very early in our nation's history. That it was against a president, and a president said, the Chief Justice, I forget off the top of my head, said he's made his ruling. Now let him enforce it. Essentially, there is no enforcement aspect to our courts. They just give the ruling, and they expect that the executive branch and the executive branch and the legislative branch will follow their rulings as per the Constitution. But because they don't have any enforcement mechanism, like the executive branch does through law enforcement agencies and so forth, people just have to have faith in that's how the system works. And that's how they get away with it. Yeah. You're saying it was Andrew Jackson. Yeah. Yeah. But that's how it is. We've been doing that since the beginning of our nation. Spray and pray. Sorry, you're talking to Word Up Russia. Wazowski says, I like hearing or reading about your thoughts and opinions. You have shown to be unbiased. Well, I try to be, on the Myers-Briggs personality type indicator. If you guys don't know what that is, it's like this series of 16 personalities that most people fall into. And you can take this little test and find out. I'm an INTJ. I'm an introvert. I'm a thinker and a judger. And that doesn't mean I judge people. It just means how I approach situations. And one of our characteristic traits of an INTJ, and I am not a borderline personality. I mean, if you go and read about INTJs, like the mastermind / architect type personality, it is me to a T. I mean, I went through most of my life never feeling understood. I always knew I was a little bit different than everybody else in the way that I approached things. I didn't understand people that were emotional. I was like, what? why in the world do people have emotions? Like I have the rest of my life to cry about this bad thing that happened. Right now, I have to take care of business. And I read this thing, it's like, oh my gosh, it's exactly how I feel. Even down to the way that I dress. It was the most amazing thing. It's like, as long as clothing meets the basics of warmth and decency, you don't care about attire. It's like, yeah, actually, that's totally me. Like this shirt I'm wearing here, I probably bought 15 years ago at Walmart for $4.99. And as of right now, it has no holes in it, so it still functions, and I'll still wear it. Like, why do I need to go down and waste my time clothes shopping? Or like, I was talking to my wife last night about going and buying shoes. Oh, I hate going and buying shoes. I just go right into the store. I buy the quickest thing that looks exactly like the ones I have, same size, get out. I'm not there to shop. I hate it. And that is such an INTJ thing. But because everything in my mind is about variables and mapping things out in the INTJ personality type, that's why I like to think I can see things and be not as emotionally invested and stuff. Yes, I do have emotions, and yes, things do get to me from time to time. I'm not the cold-hearted SOB that sometimes people want to think I am. Word Up Russia says you're an INTP. Very interesting. Gregory Gaskell says INTJ also explains why we think the same way. Yeah, I mean, I thought I was alone in this world until I discovered that the INTJ is the second most rare personality type, about 2%. The rarest is the INFJ, the feeler, the intuitive, the introvert, intuitive, feeling, and judging. And that's like 1.4% of the population. My wife is an ENFP, which very, 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 very compatible with me because all of my strengths are her weaknesses and all of her strengths are my weaknesses. So we help complement each other. Let's see. Word Up Russia says I used to give my that test to all you used to give your students that test. You know, the thing about that test that's interesting is people never answer it. You have to answer it honestly because a lot of times people will answer the questions on that test and they'll be like something in the middle. You know, they'll ask you, you would rather, be alone to solve a problem or work in a group. And some people are like, I can do it either way because if I answer it this way, people are going to judge me and think, oh, I'm terrible. No, you answer it honestly. Yeah. Otherwise, you get all these like borderline personalities, and for me, I am like off the chart INTJ, like off the chart. I'm like 80% introverted, and as a thinker, I'm like 95. Let's see here. Yellow asks, what's your go-to store for ammo in DFW if you aren't buying online? Okay, so that is a good question. Now, I will say that am in a very unique situation when it comes to ammunition. As you guys know, I am blessed beyond my wildest dreams when it comes to my sponsor, which is Brownworks. I cannot tell you, and the reason I do those ads for him in like every range report is because I mean, uh, he'll ask me for like, like a couple days ago, he'll ask me, okay, so what are you reviewing this month? What do you need? And I'm like, I'm doing this, this, and this. And he just doesn't send me like a box or two. I mean, I honestly think he loses money sponsoring me. I know that he gets clicks from the ads, but I, I cannot tell you the blessing that Market Brownworks has, and he makes an amazing product. And I own a few of his grips. I have my local fans that have bought grips from him, and they have just been absolutely outstanding. So yeah, so I'm very, very, very lucky that I don't have to buy anything unless it's a specialty caliber. And the people that lend guns to my channel will sometimes provide ammo as well, especially if it's a weird caliber. Like for example, I think Jack's here in the chat, and like when he's lent guns in 22 Magnum, which actually he has, he'll lend me 22 Magnum. Like he's like, I know you don't have this, it's not a commonly stock. He'll lend it to me. And it's like, oh my God. I mean, how awesome and amazing is that? Same thing when it was what's that arms core? Was it the 22 T? Anyway, it's at 9mm. It's like neck down to 22. He helped me with the ammo on that as well. So Jack has been amazing. Denton, when he lends stuff to my channel, he does the same thing. If it's like 6.5 Creedmoor or whatever, He'll have that. And then Brownworks gives me a lot of the like the 945, 556, the stuff I shoot the most. But to get back to what you were asking, I will say that I think the best deal in town and the people that always seem to have it in stock is Shields. I find that they'll also have more of the odder calibers like 357 SIG. When I go to the other gun stores, another gun store that's kind of my go-to around here is Rifle Gear. They will, they of course usually stock 9, 40, 45, 556, 300 blackout, 308. But if you're going into the weirder calibers, anything like 6.5 Creedmoor, 6.5, was it Grendel, anything else, they might have it, they might not. 357 SIG, they're not going to have that. So I end up having to go to Shields, and I've gone there and bought some stuff. So, yeah. See here. Word of Pressure says Brownworks is the GOAT sponsor. Yeah, I know. Probably sometimes people think that, I do that ad every time. And if you notice too, it's not what other channels do. Every ad read I do for Brownworks is unique. I have sometimes the same things I say, and I try to update the photos of things that he's created recently. Him and I share like a Dropbox thing, and he'll upload some of his latest projects, but everyone is unique and different. I just don't film one and just put it in the same video or video after video. Every read that I do for him is different. Every read. And that's just because I cannot thank him enough and drive enough traffic to his business because of what he does for me, because I could not do this without him. All right, let me catch up on some chat stuff here. Kratos says, are there any consequences to states telling the Supreme Court to pound sand? California and New York will keep restricting the second until they get a timeout. The only consequence, no, there doesn't seem to be a consequence until we have a federal government that's willing to enforce it on the executive branch side. But really, a lot of this, honestly, I think has to do with the deficiencies of the Supreme Court. One of the problems that many judges have, in my opinion, is they never want to be the definitive final say. The closest we get is with Justice Thomas. But like, for example, he will clearly say, this is the analysis that should be applied to certain gun cases. Like he would, like in the Bruin case or whatever. If you're going to ban guns, you have to follow text and tradition. And instead of just saying you can't ban guns, you cannot ban guns based off of cosmetic features because of this, this, and this, he'll say it in a way so the lower courts have to follow what they say. And you can't trust the lower courts. So until the Supreme Court actually says you can't do this, they're not going to do it. It's just like it's just like with these injunctions, okay? Whether it be the pistol brace, the FRT triggers, bump stocks, whatever. We get these injunctions, but they're just injunctions. They're not final rulings. They're not definitive. Okay, we've adjudicated the case. Here is the final ruling. It's always, well, we're going to wait until the next thing and we're going to extend the injunction and maybe we'll have oral arguments later. And nobody will make any decision. And I think I mentioned this in one of my Texas Gun Vault 2 videos that somebody brought up. It was brilliant in talking about this stuff. People saying, oh, we're going to get something with the pistol brace stuff anytime soon now. And then someone else chimed in and said, this is the brilliant thing. I said, well, how long have we been fighting bump stocks? Like 4 or 5 years now. And they're still not nationwide, allowed. So, yeah, you're not going to get anything on pistol braces. And that just happened this year. So, yeah, see, Mike is thanking Jack. So, yes, thanks again, Jack, for all of your support. Mr. King Arthur says, I have 6.5 Grendel. Word of Pressure says, when will the Russian steel case run out? I don't know. For me, and of course, this is, being upset about things that only, in the gun world, people only get upset about stuff that affects them. And for me, the Russian steel case has never been an issue. Because the only time I've ever really run a lot of it or bought a lot of it was for AKs. So I've never really run Steelcase 9 or 45. I know some people do, and or 5.56. I've actually had problems with Steelcase stuff in guns that aren't AKs, just because when the round goes off, the cases are supposed to expand a little bit and seal, and the steel case doesn't do that. And then also some of those steel case ammos don't have, or they have corrosive primers, and then some of them are coated in like a chemical that melts over time. It's almost like a waxy kind of a substance, and that can cause failures and jams and things. But I don't know when it's going to run out. I'm surprised that they haven't. But I think it has to do with the contracts that they had and the licenses that they have and when they end. Gregory Gaskell, bans are a common use test. Yeah, but do they do that? No. Just like you see in the wordplay that's happened in some of the districts out in the West Coast, a judge will see, and this is how they do it. We all know that common use means, for us, I mean, as a layman would understand, is that common use means we own them. Okay. But the judges out there go, well, AR-15s are not in common use for home defense based off of statistical shooting. So, like if somebody breaks into somebody's house and they're shot using a firearm, most of the time it's handguns. Okay. So, like if somebody breaks into your house at 3 o'clock in the morning, statistically speaking, you're going to grab a handgun before you grab an AR-15. It doesn't mean that not everybody does or any of that. Okay. I'm just saying statistically, that's what people are going to grab. And so what they'll do is this judge will say, well, it's not in common use for self-defense. Therefore, an AR-15 is not in common use. Therefore, they can be banned. See, it's a word game, and that's how they do it. So they can go to the cocktail dinner with all the other legal scholars and be like, I showed Justice Thomas. That's what they do. It's a joke, and we all know it. And that's why, Gregory, you're right. Bans are the common use test, but the judges don't understand the common use test. And then even if the Supreme Court says, okay, you can't use uses as the common use test, they will come up and say, well, based off of this incident per capita, there's so many AR-15s in this area. And then if the moon is in this right quadrant of the sky, therefore they're not in common use. It's just like, Justice Thomas just needs to go. You can't ban AR. You cannot ban AR-15s because of this reason. But he won't do it. It just drives you crazy. Let's see here. WordPress says, okay, I noticed it's still around and still 50 cents or so, but less retailers have it. Yeah, I'm sure the contracts are and those licenses are running out. And there's Jack. He says, my pleasure, Mike. Yeah, talking about the ammo. Gregor Guest was that the threshold is 200,000 for common use. How many SBRs do you think are out there? There's millions of legally registered ones. And that's a great point. And that's going back to the Catano case in Massachusetts, Catano v. Massachusetts, where it was the stun gun thing, 200,000. So, yeah, I agree. And we need to approach removing SBRs and but of course, and this is another thing that will happen. Let's just say we sue or somebody sues the federal government over SBRs and says they should be taken off of the NFA. Well, what the court will say, an anti-gun court, is, well, have you been arrested for illegal possession of an SBR? And the answer is no. I, registered it or whatever. And they're going to go, well, you don't have standing. So what you got to do is get somebody that's been arrested for it to fight it in court, and our legal system is so messed up. It's so messed up. And Joe the Clown says, love your channel, man. That means so much to me. Thank you so much. You have no idea. Gregory Gaskell says, I'm aware of the fallacious test created by activist justice. Yes. Davey J asks, what do you know about 80%ers and home-built guns? If you want my honest opinion, the answer is nothing. Just probably as much as anybody that knows anything about it. I mean, I understand how it works. You buy it, you get the kit, you drill things out. I understand that part of the, conceptual thing. I have never done it. I guess I've never bought one or used one because I guess because I already own so many guns, it's not like, the ATF or the DOJ or the FBI doesn't know I have them. So what's the point? I mean, if I'm going to get a Glock, you know, I'm going to get a Glock. I want somebody to do the work for me. I want to know that everything is milled out correctly. I want to have the warranty. I want to know it's all going to work. So it's better for me just to go buy a Glock than it is to buy an 80 percenter. I think you should be able to buy an 80 percenter. I think you should be able to do it at home. I believe that is absolutely you're right. For me personally, it's just never been anything that has appealed to me because I've never felt a need. It's not like, I mean, I know people in my personal life that have bought them because they're like, I don't want the government to know that I have this. And I was like, okay. I mean, I totally get it. I totally get it. And I support that. But then I asked him, I said, well, where do you get your other parts? Because if you just get the frame, right, you got to buy the slide, you got to buy the barrel, you got to buy all this. And I said, your credit card companies, unless you're buying it with cash and you're doing it in a physical transaction, they know that you bought a slide because your credit card companies know. These companies that sell this stuff, they keep records, and that can all be, all those records can be confiscated by the government. And like, look what, again, coming back to these FRT triggers, so many people have gotten visits from the ATF because not that they got the records from Rare Breed or any of that. It's because they use the United States Postal Service and their records, because if you guys don't know, they take a picture of every piece of mail that you get. Not that they open it, but they see the address and they know where it's from. I know it's just amazingly large database that they have. In fact, you can sign up for a service that you can see all the mail that's coming to your house before it gets there. And so they were able to track down people because Rare Breed was using shipping address that was different than their actual address, and they were using a company or a fake name called like Redbeard Products. It kind of sounds like a Rare Breed, but it was Redbeard something. And they were able to track down all of those packages and where they went because of the United States Postal Service. So even if you buy an 80 percenter, okay, and they want to know, and there's all these, automated things that keep tabs of all your purchases and postal stuff, they're going to go, oh yeah, well, he might not have bought a gun on a 4473, but man, did he buy 2 barrels, 3 slides, a trigger and this and that. They know what you got. So, you're not fooling them. You're not fooling them. But the other thing I think that in general, you have to ask yourself when it comes to government enforcement and what they know and what they don't know. So often we see government incompetence. I mean, think about, your local government, think about, even the federal government. They can't do anything. They'll pass a bill that says we got to do this, and then they can't build a bridge because they're so incompetent. But yet, on the other hand, people think they're so conniving and so powerful and so, just they know everything and can do anything. It's like, wait, well, hold on a second. Is the government either so inept that it can't do anything, or it's so omniscient that it knows and can do everything? It can't be both. They cannot be both. It's the same thing with like Donald Trump. People will say he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. But on the other hand, he's playing 4D chess and he's, chess and he's doing this and that. It's like, hold on. Is he an idiot or is he a brilliant mastermind? It can't be both. Maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. But when it comes to the government, you got to decide, are they incompetent or are they evil masterminds? All right. So I hope that answers your question, Davey. Mr. King Arthur, I live in the country. I grab whatever I want, and that's awesome. I hope that in a few years we're going to be moving out of here because this city is getting so crazy. I told you I live in a town called Frisco, which is north of Dallas. And in our town, we have the headquarters of the Dallas Cowboys. We have the Toyota International headquarters. We have the Universal Studios is building an amusement park here. It is just crazy what this town is. For a while, it was the fastest growing town in the nation. But literally, it is like the city of the future. It is crazy all the stuff that's happening and moving in here. And we're getting tired of the traffic, and because they're not building the infrastructure just to keep up with what we have. So we're looking forward to once our kids get out of college and don't live here, because we have 2 kids that go to community college, which is awesome, by the way, because it is so cheap. I mean, so cheap. It's crazy. Like after their scholarships, we pay like $800 in tuition a semester, and they live at home. Oh, that's awesome. But anyway, once they're out, we plan on selling this a place and getting some land and moving away. Not too far from here, but just away from the city. Close enough that we can go and do things and have, grocery stores and familiar things, but also where we're out a little bit. So I'd also like to have land to erect a amateur radio tower as well. Because here, if you guys don't know, I'm an amateur radio operator, and I have just my VHF, UHF antenna up on top of the house, and I have an HF antenna on top of my patio, but it's vertical. It's not very, very good. It's a multi-band thing, but it's all I can have just because of space. Hey, Denton, it's great to see you. Does it get unbearable hot in Texas? Yes. Yes, it does. I love Texas for the politics and the culture. Don't care much for the barbecue. I know that is you shouldn't say that here in Texas, but for me, I'm not a big barbecue fan, and I don't like Whataburger. I don't understand the big thing about Whataburger, but I like the politics here. And yes, it does get hot, and there are no mountains. Well, I know there's mountains down in the Big Bend region of Texas, but I'm talking about like the Appalachians or like the Rockies or anything. We don't have that. We live in the plains, and it kind of gets boring. Spray and Pray says the whole common use word game was decided in Heller and Catano. Ownership equals use. These lawyers need to watch more Four Boxes Diner so they know how to bang it over the head of these activist judges. You can bang it over the head of the activist judges, but the activist judges are going to go their own way. Speaking of the word games, how about the word shall not be infringed? Now, you guys know I love to say that because I always get that in every video. Shall not be infringed. Like, I know, but that's not practice. And I always challenge people. I said, if you honestly think it should not be infringed, I want you to go down to a gun store. I want you to buy a gun and say, I'm not filling out a 4473. I want you to flaunt gun laws in front of law enforcement. And most likely you're not going to, because you are going to be infringed and you're going to allow them to infringe upon you, as long as it doesn't mean you go to jail. But for the most part, you still feel like you're exercising your rights. Mr. King Author says everything was in common use before the NFA. Yeah. One of the reasons they didn't ban guns in the NFA, even though they wanted to, is because they knew it would not hold up against constitutional scrutiny, because shall not be infringed. But now, of course, we've moved beyond that. It's the whole slippery slope argument. Mr. King Author, a mail cover can be used temporarily by an investigator where the post office can provide a copy of the envelope or package for 10 days. Interesting. Very interesting. I'll see here. I think I caught up with everybody, and I hope I've answered everybody's questions. Going back here on the chat. Hope you guys are liking these Sunday night live streams. We're getting at 58 minutes, 12 seconds, so I'll probably be ending this shortly. I wanted to go about an hour, from about 8:30 to 9:30 Central Standard Time. As I said, I'm going to try to do this as many Sundays as I can, unless I want to make a commentary video. Spray and Pray says, I would prefer freedom for all, but do you think it might turn out to be a good thing that all these rulings for members of certain organizations? Imagine how much money they are getting for their lawsuits. It's to me, it's a double-edged sword, because if you guys follow politics, and this is not gun politics, but like if you guys know what Project Veritas was, it was that undercover media organization that was run by James O'Keefe. And James O'Keefe ended up like getting fired from his own organization and starting up a new one. But Project Veritas was bringing in a lot of money in donations. People were saying, you do amazing undercover work. You discover all this stuff. Take my money and do good with it. And it turned out that the people that were running the financials, the board of Project Veritas, got drunk with money and power, and they literally destroyed it. And look at what happened to the what's it called? National Rifle Association. Look what happened when they started getting all of their money. I can tell you they were raking in the dough. What, in 2008 to 2013 or so? And look what happened to them. Look what happened to them. They got all the money, and what did the people in power do? They wasted it. And then they became a shell of what they used to be. And I have a feeling that that's what these other gun rights organizations will be if they get too big, too fast. If they are, since they are winning these fights, they deserve our money. They deserve it. If they're doing what they're doing now, they deserve it. And we need to give them more of it. But you don't want it to become this thing where it's like, okay, I'm just a member of this organization now because, but then they'll start to waste the money. All of a sudden their boards of the people that sit on the board of directors will start taking those flights to the Bahamas and getting $40,000 suits like Wayne LaPierre. You don't want that. You don't want that to happen. But also, your constitutional rights should not be predicated on you being a member of an organization. Imagine if you had to be a member of the Democrat Party so you could exercise certain rights. That would not fly. It's rights for all, but you're absolutely right. You prefer rights, freedom for all, but that's the way it should be. Your rights are not predicated on you being a member of any organization. In fact, I kind of like the saying that it was Roy Rogers that said, I don't want to be a member of any club that would have me as a member. Because it means their standards are way too low, right? Mr. Keegarth, it's about to get cold in Texas. Yes, it is. I prefer the heat over the cold. Cold hurts. And as you guys know, I have rheumatoid arthritis, and cold just hurts me. Man, I hate it. How severe do you think Israel's response will be to the Palestinians' attack? The Palestinian attack. I honestly don't know. I have literally been so busy with just my job this week. I mean, literally, I got home from a concert an hour ago, and that's when I started the live stream. So I have not seen this. I just know barely what's going on. So I don't know. I think they have a right to defend themselves, and I think they're going to get pushed into a corner where they're just like, we're done. It's kind of like, you corner an animal, and eventually that animal's just going to be like, I'm done. I'm going all out. So Kratos says, with all these laws being passed with guns and everything else, eventually people will be breaking laws just by stepping out the house. Ayn Rand talked about that the whole point of some government officials is to make everything illegal and then selectively enforce things. So when they want to get you on something, they can. And they just want to enforce other things as long as you're a member of the approved class. Spray and pray. As a capitalist, I just like how it motivates the organizations to pursue favorable judgment to get more money. I do too. And I'm right there with you. And that's really a fine balancing act. I just don't want to see the, National Association for Gun Rights or the Second Amendment Foundation or the Gun Owners of America turn into the next NRA. I mean, the NRA is a joke. It is a joke. Yeah, Obi-Wan Kushnobi says, sounds like the NRA. Obi-Wan, when you came into the chat, you should have said, hello there. And then I would have said, General Kenobi. Come on. With a name like that, you got to do that. Kratos, if guns get banned, they should be banned for law enforcement as well. Why do they need guns if everyone is unarmed? Well, you're absolutely right. You make a logical argument there. In fact, they would say, though, in England, there are law enforcement officers that are unarmed. But you're absolutely right. But of course, we know why they're armed, because they're allowed to kill you, right? I know there's some law enforcement officials that follow my channel, but one of the things that I'm a big proponent of is removing qualified immunity for law enforcement. I really do feel like if a police officer shoots somebody and it's deemed that it was not, a good shoot, or they just got mad or whatever, you can be personally held liable. Not the department, not the city, the police officer themselves. I'm a fan of that, because all of us do any of us get immunity based off of what we do? No, we don't. And police officers should not. And they need to be held to a high standard because they have the essential ability to enforce their edict through violence. They have the monopoly of violence on their side, you know. So come with great power comes great responsibility, you know, that whole thing. John Doe, I live. I you said I live cold weather, but I think you meant I love cold weather. Don't have to sweat like a pig all the time. Spraying Princess, I hate the idea of our rights being behind a paywall, but rather that than no rights at all. Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. But our goal should be not to have it behind a paywall. Chris says, I wish I could live at the North Pole. No thanks. No, 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 no. Well, I'm happy for you if that's the case. But for me, I would rather be way too hot. I mean, if you gave me a choice, nope, no cold weather. I see. I used to love living in Florida, where I'm from, because in the wintertime, it got down to 55 degrees, and I thought that was cold. Okay, hold on. In the chat, I have to do something really fast. Hold on. Here we go. There we go. General Kenobi. Actually, it should be Kushnobi, but yeah. Oh, I love Star Wars. Everything except the Disney trilogy. Oh, that sucks. CJ Johnson asks, what part of Texas do you like? I was looking at Corpus Christi because I like the ocean. Well, I think that's, to me, the Gulf of Mexico is okay. It's cleaner than the Atlantic. See, when I used to live in Florida, you had your choice. You can go to the Atlantic, you can go to the Gulf. Gulf was always cleaner. It was always nicer. But I live in North Texas, close to like the Oklahoma border. Well, not really close. I'm like 45 minutes from it. But this is just the area that I know. I know that the hill country is beautiful, but then you got to deal with like Austin, which is weird. I think probably if I had to choose, like, and it didn't matter like what I do for a living, I can make a money anywhere. I would probably want to live like in the Big Bend area down there. I've always preferred, when I lived in New Mexico in Albuquerque, I fell in love with the high desert, and I kind of like that better than I do here in the plains. Kratos says, Florida, no way. Lived there for 6 months, basically living in a sweaty gym sock, sweating every time I left the house. Yes, it's high humidity there. Kratos also asks, what do I think of the Ahsoka show? I have seen, was it the 7 of the 8 episodes? And I actually like it. I do. I mean, I understand people's small critiques. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it a strong showing of a 7, where like Mandalorian season 1 and 2 was like a 9 or a 10. But I thought it was pretty good. It's a fun little ride, and I think the best thing about that show is Balin Skull. It's unfortunate that Ray Stevens died, or Stevenson. He died. So, and of course, they didn't end his arc. So, it's unfortunate. So, I mean, he was the best part of that show. The best part. He's full of mystery, and anyway. Somehow he survived Order 66, and you want to know more about it. Why does he have an orange lightsaber and so forth? So, but yes, I'm a complete dork on that stuff. Man, Star Wars, I will tell you, is a religion. Everything, of course, except the Disney sequel trilogy. In my mind, the Disney sequel trilogy is not canon. It's not up here. It doesn't exist. It makes no sense. They hired people that didn't know or love Star Wars to write and direct Star Wars. I don't know why they did that. It doesn't exist in my mind. Everything else is fine. Mr. King Arthur says, I like the forest the best. Yes, I tell you, when my wife and I went out to New Mexico recently, we were on the east side of the Sandia Mountain, and it was beautiful, beautiful forested area there. Really nice. Kratos says, I was very disappointed in the Boba Fett and Mando season 3. Yeah, Mando season 3, it kind of became like what The Walking Dead is, in that it was the same formula over and over again. Like, you got to give me something different. And you have to answer questions. The one thing I don't like about, serial shows now is they set up something that obviously is a mystery and they never answer it. If you're a video game person, there are 2 video game series that set up all these questions. One was Five Nights at Freddy's, a little horror game. And the other one was Half-Life. all these characters and all this history and all this stuff is you're like, wow, this is an amazing story. And they never answer anything because they want you to wait till the next installment, and then they never created the next installment. And you're like, "Ugh, don't, if you set up something, eventually you have to answer it. You can create more stories, more questions, but just answer some of them. All right, I'm probably going to I think I'm going to ban CJ Johnson for saying Star Trek is better than Star Wars. No, I'm just kidding. I actually like both. It's funny if you look at my YouTube watch list and the channels that I'm subscribed to, I have a lot of Star Wars and a lot of Star Trek, believe it or not. Yeah. There's this one channel I watch which is all about like the different starship designs of Star Trek. I know I'm a a complete dork. You guys just do not realize how much of a dork I am. Guns really are like, okay, maybe this is all of my attention. Guns are like that. So I have like Star Wars, Star Trek, astronomy, history. Oh God, I love history. Amateur radio, stuff like that. I do way more than just guns. Music, obviously, because that's my career. Kratos, the Darksaber was talked about for 2 seasons, then gets broken by a strong grip. Yep. I don't know. Spray and Pray, Disney Star Wars sucked, but the Lego sets, yes, I have quite a few of those actually. I do Legos too, and the next Lego set I'm buying is the big old Concorde. It's $199. I think it's a great deal. I actually built the Titanic set, which is awesome. But anyway, I've been streaming now for 1 hour and 11 minutes and 20 seconds. So if anybody has any more gun questions or anything else they want to ask, please type it into the chat. I will try to get to those. And then I'm going to go take a shower and probably lay in bed. And maybe I'll watch actually the last episode of Ahsoka because I need to do that. Chris says, do you have any of the techno sets? No, I don't have any of the Technique sets. No. I do have a lot of the icon sets. Those are the ones I like. The Legos for adults. John Doe says, I was never a Star Wars fan. Give me Hercules and Xena. Oh, Xena, Warrior Princess. Oh, yeah, that was a great show. Spray and Princess, thanks for the videos. Enjoying the live streams. I'm so glad that you're enjoying them. And I appreciate the good dialogue you and I had, because I know that you and I think, just disagreed on something recently. We had a great dialogue about it. So I do appreciate that. And that's what it's about. People think that I just ban people because they disagree. No, if you call me a name, I'll ban you. But as long as people can be like, Jason, you're totally wrong in this, and here's why. And this is why I think. Okay, great. Let's have a conversation about it. Word of Pressure says, enjoyed it, man. Thanks again for keeping the channel going. Man, this is my life and my passion. It really is. It's like having a second job. People don't realize that. It's like having a second job. And I woke up this morning knowing I had this rehearsal and a performance this afternoon, and I got up and filmed my Texas Gun Vault poll question of the week. In fact, as soon as we get off here, I do know what I need to do. I need to come up with the next poll question of the week. So I forgot to make that today, meaning like the actual poll and the question. So I need to do that. So, yeah. Spring Priest says it's okay. We disagree because the only thing better than being right is getting to say, I told you so. Well, unless you're me, you don't get to do that. Good night, Obi-Wan. Mike, thank you for stopping by. I'm glad you're enjoying it. So I think that's probably about it. I appreciate everybody stopping by tonight. It means a lot to me, and I hope you guys enjoy these, and I'll try to do them every Sunday if I'm not doing something else. So hope you guys have a wonderful, I guess if you have tomorrow off, have fun tomorrow. If you have to go to work, I'm so sorry, but I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I'll try to get the poll question out over on the Texas Gun Vault 2 for next week's video. So I guess I'll end it there. Have a wonderful evening, guys. So, as always, thanks for watching.